Hello everyone, and welcome back to another cartography lecture video. And in this lecture video, I want to move on to our discussion and continue our discussion in classification by talking about another approach that we can use called maximum breaks. And so to recap where we left off last time, we had talked about this idea of standard deviation, where we had the classes centered at the mean, and we went some distance from the mean based on a proportion of standard deviation. So in this example, I set the class width equal to 1/2 of a standard deviation, and so we centered on the mean. So this class was 1/4 to the mean, and then 1/4 from the mean. And then each class after that went 1/2 a standard deviation. And this was probably one of the more complicated examples, so hopefully that made sense. The next one that we're going to talk about is called maximum breaks. Maximum breaks. And the idea with maximum breaks is that it sets the breakpoints in the largest gaps of the data. Right, it sets the breakpoints in the largest gaps of the data. In the largest gaps of the data. Right. And so the way that this would work is you would take, if we consider each observation as a pair, let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4 observations. This would be 1, 5, 6, and 9. Right, what it's going to do is it's going to compare the values of neighboring observations by subtraction, and then it's going to put the breakpoints where those values are the largest. So the gap between 1 and 4, right, this gap, actually let's do that in a different color. Right, the gap between 1 and 5, right, so this gap is going to be 5 minus 1 equals 4. Right, the gap between 5 and 6 is going to be 6 minus 5 equals 1. And then the gap between 6 and 9 is going to be 9 minus 6 equals 3. Right? And so then the maximum breaks is going to look at these and it's going to say, well, this one, right, this is the largest gap. Right, this is the largest gap, so it's going to place a break here. So this is our break, right? It's going to put a break here. So this would be one class, right? And then these would all be a different class, right? And if we wanted to have, let me erase that, right? And if we wanted to have 3 classes, right, that would mean 2 breakpoints, right? It would then look for the second largest gap. So this one's already been used. So between these two, right, it would say, okay, well, this has a gap of 1 and this has a gap of 3. So this would be the second largest gap. Right, so it would then place the second breakpoint in between 6 and 9. So that would mean that this right here, this would be one class, right? This right here, this would be the second class, and then this right here would be the third class. Okay. So that's conceptually how maximum breaks works, right? It looks at the difference between neighboring observations, and it sets the breakpoints in the largest gaps. So let's take a look again at this in a sort of more realistic example. Let's go ahead and look again at our data set that we've been working with here. So we're going to make a copy of that, and we're going to go here. And so this is going to be maximum breaks. So let's go ahead and walk through how maximum breaks would work. Let's uncolor the data. So we're going to include now another called difference. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to calculate the difference is going to be based on the difference. So for here, for example, it's going to be that minus that. So if we do that minus that, so the difference here is going to be 0.2. And then if I drag these down to here, we should end up with, okay. So if this is the highest, our breakpoint would go underneath this. So let's go ahead and say that we want 3 classes, just like we did before. So the first thing that we have to realize is that our breakpoints or our data is ordered, which is necessary to be able to do this. And then we're just going to basically go through the list and find the top 3 biggest gaps. So we have a gap of 0.6, so we're going to have a gap here, which means this is potentially going to be one class. I'm going to sort of outline it in like gray for now, because we know we're going to be putting a breakpoint here. We know we're going to put a breakpoint there. So when we scroll through of the second highest, we have a 0.4 here, a 0.4 here, and a 0.4 here. So now this would be where you would need to sort of employ some other method to figure out where you want to put the breakpoints, because you have 3 that are tying. Mine would be to put the break here. So we would have this be class 1. Right, putting the breakpoint there. My next breakpoint I would put here. And then this would obviously then be the 3rd class. Okay, so in terms of our ranges, this would be 4.3 to 4.5. This would be 5.1 to 5.6. And then this would be 6 to 6.8. So hopefully that made sense. The idea that we basically look for where the differences are highest, and then we put the breakpoints between the points where those values are the highest. So hopefully this made sense. And if you have any questions, as always, please reach out. Thank you.